Hello, and welcome to the Armwood Opinion channel on YouTube on a beautiful mid-fall afternoon here in the Atlanta area, sitting by the lake and just enjoying this beautiful weather. Today is the day after the off-year elections, and we saw major victories for the Democrats in Virginia, where the Democrats swept the state house, and now control both branches of the Commonwealth of Virginia's State House, as well as the governor's mansion. So they will be able to enact progressive legislation and get it signed by the governor. We saw surprise victories in Kentucky, in the heart of the Middle South, really coming out of the large concentration of population which is across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. It's actually suburbs of Cincinnati that are in Kentucky, if any of you have been to that area. So we saw some progress, but I want to make sure Democrats don't get overconfident for 2020. The Electoral College still favors the smallest states, as it was designed to do. A lot of Americans have a very skewed sense of what democracy means. When it comes to national elections, the United States has never been a country where everyone's vote counted equally. It was not designed that way. To get the smaller states to go along with the Electoral College, you had smaller states getting a larger proportion of representation than their population dictated. Now you may question that. Wait a second. Well, how can a state like Delaware, Rhode Island, North Dakota, Alaska, with very small populations that are less than the boroughs of some of New York City's boroughs, have 2 senators, while states like California, Texas, Florida, and New York, with huge populations, have 2 senators. This was designed that way. So because of that, you can have a situation where, as happened in 2016, where the occupant of the White House can get a smaller amount of the popular vote than the other candidate and still win the White House. This happened back with Gore and Bush, when you had that conflict about the hanging chads in Florida, and when the Supreme Court stepped in, and many of us who have studied constitutional law believe unconstitutionally stopped the counting of the vote. According to the Constitution, vote counting is a state matter, not a federal government matter, unless it violates some other constitutional provision, like the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which wasn't involved in that election, in the Bush-Gore election, but they stepped in. So all of this to say that we could get stuck with Trump again in a general election. The impeachment proceedings are serious. They're becoming more serious. We've had a someone in Trump's State Department, an official, reversed his testimony when he was placed under oath regarding whether he was directed to demand an investigation of Joe Biden's family in exchange for monies which had been appropriated by Congress for the Ukrainian military in its fight against Russia. He initially testified that no, he didn't remember any of this. But then when he was put under oath yesterday, he testified that yes, he did in fact tell the Ukrainian officials this. And there have been a number of people who have testified. We're getting ready to have public hearings. So that's major. But we still have Republican senators who, if the House impeaches, can vote to keep Donald Trump in office. And a lot of them are extremely hypocritical. They've been changing their stories all along. Lindsey Graham from South Carolina has been classic with it, as he has moved from, if there's a quid pro quo, it'll be serious. Quid pro quo, number one, is not mentioned in the Constitution. It's not a crime under federal law. The crime is bribery. That is a crime. Is it a high crime and misdemeanor? That is a political question for the Senate to decide. The media, and therefore its questioning of members of Congress, gets sidetracked often on things like quid pro quo, and the discussion goes in that direction. The real question, the constitutional question, is there a high crime and misdemeanor? What does that mean? We don't have a legal definition for that. That's why some people argue that impeachment and removal from office are political, not legal. I categorically disagree with that. I would argue it's both. Definitionally, it's legal because it's in the Constitution, which is the founding legal document of our country. How it's applied is political. But I would argue that within any case, politics can be involved. I've seen it often, practicing law and litigating, where for the same crime, white defendants and black and Hispanic defendants are sentenced differently. That is political. White defendants tend to get softer punishment for the same crime. There have been numerous studies which have shown that. It's always been this way. So yes, that is political. It's social. It's cultural. All of these factors play into the law. What we need to do is keep the pressure up. Their public hearings are starting very, very soon in the House of Representatives. The purpose of them is to educate the public to what is really going on. Because a lot of people don't spend time studying politics. They're making a living, they're taking care of the other families, and a whole lot of people just think it doesn't matter. They're wrong. It does matter. It does matter. We have children still at the border being held in cages. The media is not talking about it. It's not talking about children dying because its attention has moved on. But the consequences of what is going on with this current, what I call gangster administration, are still being felt by real people. So we have to let our legislators know that we will hold them accountable at the polls. If we have a senator, once the House impeaches, and it's almost certain that they will, we will hold them accountable at the polls if they ignore the criminality that has gone on. It is overwhelming. And we have to tell them, call them. I've been doing that. If you coddle these criminals in the White House, in the State Department, from Trump to Pompeo to Barr in the Attorney General's office, Pompeo is Secretary of State, to these outsiders, the former thug mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani, who's a horrible person. He used to defend killer cops in New York who would shoot unarmed black people. So folks, what I'm saying is make sure that you keep up your vigilance, that you get your friends, neighbors, and relatives focused on pressuring your senators, in particular, your senators, to hold these criminals in the federal government accountable, that they support removal of the president from office, and that you support the investigations that are going on. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go on any longer, but please do that. It is imperative because people's lives are at stake. You have a good day. Hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more or see more videos like this. And have a good day. And remember, resistance is not futile.